Well, good day to everyone. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to give you a sermon extra. After yesterday, this last Sunday, we talked about the importance of really protecting our heart when it comes to fending off Satan's attacks. Because he's always going to try to get to our heart in some way. It might be through a lie that he would hope that we believe. It might be through distraction as he would try to lead our hearts away from a relationship with God. And so I thought it would be fitting today to take us to the Psalms to talk about David. David would actually talk often about this idea of really guarding your heart. In fact, it was his dad, Solomon, that would say in a famous proverb, guard your heart above all else. And so David then becomes this guy who not only becomes good at maybe guarding his heart, although he certainly had his blunders, um, but he would become known also as a man after God's own heart. And so there's a famous psalm, Psalm 139. You may know the psalm. In it, David talks a lot about God and just how great he is, how he knows everything about David, every single little detail, and yet even knowing how David is, still cares about him the way that he does. It's a really cool psalm. But he wraps up the psalm then with a little prayer, which is an incredible prayer for us to pray on a continual basis as well. He talks about the heart. And he wraps up the psalm this way in Psalm 139. Here's his little prayer. He says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. Man, that is an incredible prayer because it really allows us to stay humble in heart. I think that that's one of the keys in really protecting our hearts from Satan is just simply staying humble. And as David would pray that prayer, you know what it really does is you would ask God to search your heart. I think it sort of reminds us that we aren't at the center of the universe. Because pride will often do that. When we become prideful and we become arrogant, we may not always say it, but our mentality is really that we are at the center of the universe. But David's prayer, as he would say, search me, O God, point out anything in me. You know what that's doing is it's really placing God at the center of his universe. And we can do the same through such a prayer. It's a great one to pray. I think that such a prayer of humility when it comes to our heart, also makes room for God in our heart. Because when we become filled with maybe it's prideful things, or maybe it's just things that, like we talked about before, things that we would believe from Satan. Our past, our failures that maybe he uses against us. When we begin to fill our heart with those falsehoods, or maybe those false pursuits, a lot of times there's really no room to grow in our hearts towards God. But this kind of prayer, saying, God, get out anything within me, anything that you see in my heart that doesn't put you at the center of my universe. Well, when we pray such a prayer, it really begins to make room for more God in our life. Hey, I hope that that is your prayer today or throughout your week. It's found in Psalm 139, verse 23. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. That's the key, right? God, point out anything in me that shouldn't be there, that offends you, so that you may lead me even better towards everlasting life, towards richness, towards the blessedness that your word would describe. Hope that helps, and hope that you will be praying that prayer today and through the rest of the week.